trends that we saw in the recent past. I want to start by commending His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Zambia, Dr. Edgar Chagwarungu, for his detailed and thorough address to Parliament and through Parliament to the nation on Friday. And I think in fulfilling his constitutional mandate, he did address a number of pertinent issues that this country has been facing in terms of the progress also we have made in implementing our national values and principles. He was very clear, and I think his message was loud and clear. And I would be surprised to hear how someone would just come up and say, probably that's what ignorance can do. Those who think that the president came to Parliament, that particular address is prescribed in the Constitution. And the matters he has to address are also prescribed in the Constitution. So if you expected him to talk about things that were in your head and he didn't speak about them, you would think maybe he left so many issues. But those of us who understand the Constitution, we know that he did a thorough and good job, which must be commended. And those, of course, we have got, that's why we say leadership must be progression. You can't come and so pretend over Parliament you have never understood. So it's important for those that are vying for national office to understand the institutions of governance and how they are structured. Now, you colleagues do recall that His Excellency's address was to deal with issues of morals, principles and values. But before he went into the details of his address, he shared with the nation how much he was affected by the insecurity that engulfed certain parts of our country, starting from Chingola on the Copper Belt, Northwestern Province, and eventually what we saw here in Lusaka. And I must say that the situation in Chingola was a little bit desperate, because I think you have followed my sharing of information regarding what was obtaining there on different forums, including Parliament. The situation we started with innocent citizens being attacked in their homes, brutally hacked, and a few of our brothers and sisters lost their lives. You do recall that on the 29th of December, there was one family which was brutally attacked. Head of the house, hacked and left to die. His wife, hacked, gang raped, and also left to die. 2 children between the ages of 4 and 9 were equally hacked. And unfortunately, one of them, a 9-year-old, lost his life. And I'm sure you saw what followed. The people of Chingola couldn't take that lightly, and to some extent you can't falter them, because at that point they vented their hunger. And I was called by His Excellency. I was trying to tour my constituents as well. As you know, I have to also see my employers, who are the beloved people of Shwangando. I was called back by His Excellency the President, and he requested me and the Honorable Minister of Defense to go to Chingola at that point when people became riotous, public property destroyed, and it was just confusion. So we went with the Minister of Defense for 2 days to just go and assess the situation, came back to come and make some preparations and strategize, and then I returned to Chingola and Copperbelt. At that point, another modus operandi was to begin. People being gassed, sleeping in unfinished houses, being gassed and being disturbed in the night. People stopped sleeping in the homes, others were sleeping in shifts, and it was just something. But thank God, I want to thank our men and women in uniform who worked tirelessly day and night to make sure that they dealt with the situation. From there, I went to Northwestern Province, where there were also incidents of suspected gassing of innocent citizens and public institutions like schools. But what we discovered was that in the midst of all those criminal activities taking place, the spreading of falsehoods, false alarms, because you can imagine you are just seated here and someone at the back will just say, oh yeah, we have been gassed. But the way we react as human beings to alarming situations is different. Just as we are seated here, we are all okay. Just react to an alarm, we'll be trooping out this door. By the time we are going to assemble outside there, others would have developed PP, others would have developed different conditions. All of us here, as normal as we are, we seem to be. Now, you imagine that happening to children in a classroom block where children use one door to go in, and when an alarm is sounded, they all have to troop out using one single door. So sometimes you saw our children being attended to at the health centers, hospitals, and the medical personnel could find no traces of anything of having inhaled, but different conditions would have developed in our children. So this is what people should understand, those that are in the habit of spreading falsehoods. Whereas we had, yes, some genuine cases of people being spread, and also the way we react to substances is different. The perfume that the director might like could be infectious to me. Just a mere, fragrance. So these are things that I think we needed to share with the people, but I'm happy that we are where we are today, despite the regrettable development of losing so many lives in the hands of fellow citizens who opted to take law into their own hands and meted out instant justice on those people that they suspected to have been gassers. And talking about falsehoods, we had an incident in Chilabombwe where a couple, not a couple per se, but these were two people in a relationship and they had a child. A gentleman goes to visit, and think after they had separated, goes to visit probably to see a child. An argument erupts, and the easiest thing the lady could do was just to shout. What gassing ever? And the people, the emotions of people were so high. And people trooped into that house, attacked the gentleman, beat him to death, and bent him. As I speak now, this poor mother is in our custody, together with those that acted with her in taking that man's life. The poor child will have to remain. So now you can imagine, and this is why I think the president was really emphasizing that what if we become as Zambian people? We have not known that kind of life where you can take someone's life like a chicken. So on our part as Ministry of Home Affairs and our law enforcement agencies, will do our part by making sure that all those that participated in the gassing activities, those that meted out instant justice on fellow citizens, will have to face the law. But above that, it's indeed everybody's responsibility to help and to introspect and look at ourselves and say, what have we become as citizens? We can't accept a situation where we have become so superstitious. So superstitious. You imagine you are just walking, even you stay here in Long Acres, you go to Chawama to visit, and they give you like a plastic containing honey from Northwestern. And just people seeing you moving with a plastic, just a plastic with a container, could be a death warrant. By the time they are knowing, oh, this is a gentleman, we have a number of suspects, some of whom have started appearing in the courts of law, and some of whom are still being charged. And I must commend the judiciary. And I know that one magistrate saw it fit that those who were participating in instant justice mob were not to be given bail as a way of getting people to learn a lesson. And I think that's commendable because that's now helpful to the law enforcement agencies. So that said, we appeal to you, our colleagues through in the media, to follow these cases with keen interest, because it's in the courts of law that you get the details. I heard some gentleman calling himself at Gears, there's something called Gears. There's like a political colleague who was trying to hide behind some NGO after being thumped in not Kafue, in the Chirundu, by Honorable, yes, Donald Spence. He was trounced by Zunga Siakarima. Now, he has to put politics aside. If he wants to be an NGO, you can't have it with both hands. Yeah. I heard him yesterday say, the police must tell the public who that murder suspect killed. What kind of jungle is that?
Maybe the suspect himself.
Yeah, probably. Is what will be followed on all the suspects, regardless of their status. Regardless, we won't look at their political affiliation. So if someone is a murder suspect, you go to courts of law. So if Chipenzi wants to know who was murdered by who, let him go to court. That's where those facts are reviewed. How can police become unprofessional to start saying, no, even I know that there have been questions to say, what substances have they been using to gas people? The moment you start discussing them in public, you are taking them to public court. So all those laboratories for analysis, and at an appropriate time, they will be tendered in the courts of law as evidence. That's how it works. So I also want to say that this suggestion by His Excellency of considering to set up a commission of inquiry is equally welcome, because what will happen is the law enforcement agencies will do their part, the National Prosecution Authority will equally do their part, get these cases taken to court, but it would be in the public interest to also just get to understand the motives, what was motivating these individuals to do what they did. And an inquiry can then pay attention to all these details, interact with the victims, and as the terms of reference will be couched. So I think for us as Minister of Home Affairs, we welcome that suggestion by His Excellency, the President. And we also want to commend him because he made timely decisions as Commander-in-Chief. It is undeniable that the police population ratio is still below what is expected. We need to progressively increase the numbers so that the police can effectively police our communities. And so, when need arose, it was just appropriate that His Excellency, the President, who is Commander-in-Chief, evoked his powers by getting the military personnel from the Ministry of Defense to join the Zambia Police Service in curbing the criminal activities that were escalating. And the modus operandi was very straightforward. The soldiers will help out, track down the culprits, and hand them to the police. No suspect was being kept in the barracks. All the suspects were being kept in the police custody. And most of them are still there. When they are tried and everything is done, they will still come back to Home Affairs, where we keep offenders who are not fit to be in society through the correctional service. It's just that now we have changed the modus operandi, the way we manage offenders, from the punitive incarceration now to reformatory. So we panel beat the criminal minds and make them law-abiding citizens and productive citizens. That's why you have seen the production levels in the correctional service doubling. We don't want to waste human resource. If you fail to live in community, we get you into production so that you can channel your energy in that area. So, dear colleagues, just to thank you also, most of you, the journalists, were quite helpful in disseminating appropriate information. You know, what you see is what you get. I mean, I've always been with the smart eagles everywhere in the villages, and, you know, and all those of you in the media fraternity who were patriotic, because others, like the President has said, have turned themselves into journalists because of the social media. And these are the ones that are diluting the whole, the importance of this profession. But most of you must be commended for being part of the, the solution. Inculcating in our people, especially the aspect of not taking law into their own hands. You played a critical role. And that's as it should be. To those who opted to take advantage, like one criminal suspect, you saw, I think most of you saw a video clip which was circulating of a lady being hammered, being hacked. It was unfortunately discovered that the person who generated that clip is one of our murder suspects. He went into hiding somewhere in northwestern province, where at least now we have got gadgets and software to track down people with these gadgets. You have phones. And he was doing that to change attention from people who were pursuing him to make people start focusing on things that never happened anyway. But fortunately, our professional men and women in uniform managed to track him down. And this is a warning that the president was trying to give, that to those who think you continue hiding behind social media platforms, Facebook or whatever, your days are numbered. Your days are numbered. And this should be taken as a friendly warning, because when we start the cramp down, as we are already doing, we don't want people to cry and say, no, our rights are being infringed upon. There's no such a thing as absolute freedom. A week ago, we supported a motion in Parliament, which was tabled, a private member's motion, tabled by the Honorable MP from Mazabuka, in which he was urging government to strictly enforce the law against hate speech. Hate speech. And hate speech is in various forms. The hate speech that you throw on the social media is not any different from the verbal hate speech. So we supported that progressive motion. And that's how we as the PF parliamentarians are. When the opposition comes with something progressive, we don't go into cheap politicking. We support. And for us who are responsible for law enforcement, it was a timely motion. And that's why we supported it. But it will come with interesting implications, because now we are going to double the efforts in clamping down on those that concoct falsehoods. Because if you concoct falsehoods about Mr. Chandahiye, Mr. Mwanza, or the Honorable, you have got a calculated mind to get the people, to turn the people against this individual. Of late, you have seen some of the fabrications, even at the office of the Minister of Home Affairs. But in as much as we are not swayed, because we remain focused, you know, when we are pursuing criminals, they have got different tactics to distract those who are pursuing them. They'll be throwing something, money there. So even to us who are pursuing these criminals, and they know. I saw someone saying, no, if I was the president, I would have removed Minister of Home Affairs, IG. How can you, if you are a coach of a team, suggest to your other competing team to say, if you want to beat me in the game, remove Messi, or remove Sarah and Van Dijk if it's Liverpool. That's social proposing to crop. How does that work? So we know the intention of these colleagues on the scene. We will pursue criminals. And those that are innocent, you just sleep. When you are innocent and you haven't done anything wrong, there is no reason why you should be panicking, calling police. Hey, I've heard that you're looking for me. No. When we're looking for you, we just come. You don't have to make it, no, you're looking for me. No, they're doing this so that they come for me. No. No one creates a crime in order to find a criminal. It doesn't work. It doesn't add up. So those who have got nothing to worry about, both on social media criminality and the gassing criminality, must have nothing to worry about. Sleep well. But if you have got a troubled mind, then you just count. We won't let you, and we avoid someone, getting thugs to camp at the houses. That, the police are coming. Who can stop police to get a criminal? There is no one who can stop police to get anyone any wrongdoer. You can hire thousands of thugs. We have got trained men and women who do their job well. And I also want to just supplement the statement that was issued by the Inspector General of Police to those on the Copper Belt and particularly in Chingola who are agitating and saying they will want to protest over the arrest of one of the suspects in Chingola. Just as you thought that suspect could not be touched, it should give you a signal that we are not here to play. We are not here to play. And I want to say that to those who think, no, if I'm sitting today, even as we are sitting today, the interesting part of our job is that today the departure point for us is when someone engages in wrongdoing, even if they were relatives. As we are sitting here, my brother here from the east, if he just commits a crime, here, as we are brothers, that's a departure point. Zabwino palibe. Chibwenzi tilibe maningi. Because chimasila fast. Ukapchimwa, sorry, comrade. Zambo kuletira kombeva. You are inside. We have had certain cases that were of public interest, and I share this because that's how you should understand. I have one of my good friends, renowned lawyer, former member of parliament, former deputy minister in the PF government, MP for UPND, as it were, still remained a good friend. When he found himself in a situation, there was nothing we could do because no one is above the law. You heard concoctions, no, because they're friendly to the Home Affairs, they are doing this. We are focused. We say sorry, but the law has to take its course. So those of you who think, there are people that will be, no one will be shielded. There will be no sacred cows. And the president made this very clear during his address, that no one is above the law. 2, no sacred cows. That's the interesting part of our job. Even my own brother, when he breaks the law, it has to be, sorry, sir, sorry, my sister. And that's how it is. So just to make it clear that there will be no sacred cows, there's nothing like, in any case, you can be a journalist. When you break the law, I think you remember one of yours was inside. You cried, no, please this, please that. No, you say please to the law. It's the same. So when party membership is not an insurrection against the law. And those who want to think they can use the party affiliation to commit crime, most of them are in correctional service. And I find them, I meet them. Hello, how are you? Okay. Stay well. So, we would want to see this country, we are on tour of duty. And our tour of duty begins and at some point ends. The responsibility we have is to make sure that we inherited a peaceful nation and we should leave it as peaceful as it is for the future generations to come. That's why we say one Zambia, one nation. And the president was also very clear. when he was talking about hate speech and when he was talking about things that contribute to disintegration of society, tribalism. I've always said that tribalism has not been relevant to this generation. And those that want to perpetrate it for either political expedience, they are just wasting time. I mean, we are in a generation where, as a gentleman there meets a beautiful lady, I don't know of a man who starts by saying, "What's your tribe?" first. Just as ladies also, I don't think when you are being proposed to, you say, "First, sir, what's your tribe?" That's a generation we are in. I don't know if I should call my children Bemba or Chewa or Ngoni. And I've got most of my colleagues, honorable MPs, whose families I go to, you find Mutinta, Mulenga, mixed. So we as a generation must guard that jealously, because that's what we are. We are in a society where we don't look at anyone's ethnicity. And anyone who wants to think they can use ethnicity as a way of progressing in life, you have got no control. And my advice would just be, don't waste your energy on things that you can't change. Just like we brought up in the families, you know, if you had the way of saying, my father, we just wanted to be 3, boys only. Has anyone ever done that choice? The answer is no. You are just found 3 brothers and maybe a sister. And you have to live with that because you have got no control. You can't change. Similarly, we are 73 ethnic groupings. No one can change. So whether you want to say, no, me, I want to just be in a society where we are just this ethnic group, go to the farm at your village. So I think we can interact more by you, dear colleagues, you know, asking questions and seeking points of clarification. But generally, just to say that we had the insecurities that have been dealt with, and we have requested our men and women in uniform to continue being vigilant. And we have heard, of course, of complaints saying, no, the soldiers, no, but if isolated incidents have been recorded, we make sure that they are investigated. But the duty of men and women in uniform when they're on assignment like that, is to ensure that your lives are protected, your property protected, so that you enjoy the liberties of being a Zambian citizen.
The President, in conformity with this provision of the Constitution, came to Parliament on Friday 6th March, which was last week, and delivered his speech. As I mentioned, there are 6 values and principles as outlined in Article 8 of our Constitution: morality and ethics, patriotism and national unity, democracy and constitutionalism, human dignity, equity, social justice, equality and non-discrimination, good governance and integrity, sustainable development. Now, one thing that was particular about the President's address to Parliament this time was that he started with a subject that was prime to the needs of the Zambian people before he got into the detail on the application of values and principles. He dealt with the issue first of national security, which has been competently dealt with by the Honorable Minister responsible for that side of our governance system. Now, what does that mean? To me, that answers to the many criticisms that have been piled on the president for not having spoken on this issue earlier. You see, as head of state and the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, you have to be calculative in not only what you say, but also when you say it. If the president had spoken the way he spoke about that subject on Friday, if he had spoken like that 3 weeks ago, it would have directed the issue in a direction that may not be exactly what we want to achieve. The president had to report a subject, had to report on what has been done so far and the successes scored. The president had to ensure that certain information that is critical to the investigation was protected and only spoke about it when the time was right. And I'm speaking like this, Honorable Minister, let me just mention that I've been a presidential staffer for many years. I've been an assistant to president, and these are certain ways that presidents tend to think and approach their constitutional responsibilities. It is not just because Mr. Gears wants to say, no, the president might say this. No. The president has a big responsibility, and he must be calculated in what he says and when he says what he says. So for me, that was the right opportunity, especially so that he was addressing directly the representatives of our people who are affected by the insecurity situation that has been obtaining in the country over the past 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. Yeah. So as regards the subject now, there are, as I said, 6 values and principles as defined in our Constitution. The president spoke to each and every one of them. But let me focus more on the first 3. Okay? Morality and ethics first. Now, I think first let's understand what is morality and what is ethics. Sometimes these 2 words are used interchangeably. When you are talking about morality or morals, morals are an individual's own understanding and appreciation of what is right and what is wrong. Okay? So morality is something that is innate in you. It's like you are born with it. It's deep down your conscience. It is your inward conviction. Each one of us have got as individuals what you believe is right and what is wrong, isn't it? Okay? Whereas ethics are standards that are set by your external environment in which you are operating. It's things like codes of practice, okay? Codes of behavior, electoral code of conduct. When you act outside the electoral code of conduct in an election, it means you are going outside the electoral ethics of the country as set by the law. Whereas morality, it can only be taken into account when making the law. But ethics themselves can be defined in a piece of law. That is the difference that we probably may need to understand. In addressing the issue of morality and ethics, the president did address the key issues of child marriages, gender-based violence, alcohol, and substance abuse. As regards alcohol and substance abuse, the president indicated the success of his government, that the government has been undertaking sensitization in the population about the dangers of alcohol and substance abuse. There has been an improvement, there has been progress, whereas in 2018, 486,000 people were covered in the sensitization exercise. As at 2019, this has gone up by almost 50% to 644,000 that have been covered. The government has undertaken counseling and rehabilitation of people that have been engulfed by alcohol and substance abuse. While in 2018, 757 people were rehabilitated. This has gone up to 797 in 2019. Now, let us remind each other again that why the president gave these figures is to show, as the Constitution says, progress made in the implementation. Okay, so the president was giving from last year when he addressed Parliament on this issue to this year what progress has been made. That's what the Constitution said. He could not speak outside this. Okay. The president took note of the issue of drug abuse in sports, and that sensitization has been undertaken in this area, where 3,000 people have been sensitized on the dangers of doping in sports, and the government has been undertaking training on anti-doping practices in sports. His Excellency also did touch on the issue of abuse of internet and social media. What I found very interesting, an interesting statistic, is the extent to which the coverage of internet usage in Zambia has advanced way above the continental average of 35.9%. In Zambia, internet coverage has passed 52%. So you can see that the government is doing very well, obviously, with the construction of communication towers. Even in rural areas, people are having access to internet use, which is having a positive impact on their livelihood, because then they have access to facilities such as mobile money. They are having access to information through the internet, and the population is getting more and more literate and educated. In addition to this, the president reported that in view of the abuse of social media, the government has started training the police service in the detection of cybercrime, so that people that are abusing social media and committing crime using social media can be caught up with by the law, as the minister earlier indicated. The president also touched on the issue of child rights. Child marriages have been reduced, and the target is that by 2021, child marriages would have reduced by 40%, and by 2030, there should be not one case of child marriages. And this has been achieved by the government strategy of working with traditional rulers, where in 2019, the government worked with 146 traditional rulers in 14 districts in Eastern, Central, Northwestern province. Now, this particular intervention is what the president reported that Zambia won a gold award in Cairo, Egypt, for using traditional rulers to intervene in the issue of child marriage. The president also dealt with the challenge of teenage pregnancy and child defilement, and also ensuring that children from poor families are returned to school and given dignity through the homegrown school feeding program that is being undertaken. The president did raise major concern, and I think that this is important that we are talking about it on International Women's Day, about gender-based violence, which has been on the increase over the years, but also indicated a positive trend that while people were quiet about it and secretive, our population has now become more conscious of the rights and the need to fight this by reporting cases of GBV to the police. In 2018, 22,000 cases were reported to the police regarding gender-based violence, but in 2019, that number rose to 121. Now, what we need to go deeper into, however, does that mean cases of gender-based violence are going up? Or is this simply that people are becoming more conscious? The first answer is that yes, clearly people are becoming more conscious of the rights of women, especially who become the biggest victims of GBV. But I believe the minister would provide better detail as to the actual incidence of GBV in our families. Obviously, the government has taken action by increasing public sensitization. The government has set up 32 one-stop centers in selected hospitals to deal with gender-based violence. And in addition, the government has worked with the judiciary to set up fast-track courts to deal with GBV cases. The president also proudly announced success recorded 100% in the stopping of examination malpractices. examination malpractices started appearing as though it was an impossibility, like it was a case that cannot be dealt with. However, I think that this has been finally dealt with, because as the president reported, during the 2019 examinations, school examinations, there were 0 cases of exam malpractices. Now, the second value and principle that the president spoke about were matters of patriotism and national unity. I think that in his presentation, the minister touched a lot on that, on the issue of tribalism. You don't approach somebody and your first question is, what tribe are you? I'm sure we heard exactly what the minister explained. As the president emphasized, we should have no room for this in our republic. 56 years after independence, we must be talking tribe. You see, unfortunately, I must say, tribe does not work anywhere else except in politics, because certain people want to use tribe as a platform on which to get to power. Let me say this. Let me tell this to the Zambians. Once you see a politician come to you and talk about tribe, know that he is empty. That politician is offering nothing for you as regards development. There are so many issues of development that a politician should go and campaign about: education, agriculture, food security, security itself. There are so many issues on industrialization, job creation. When a politician is not capable of offering tangible programs to deal with these issues, their only fallback position that they resort to is vote for me because I'm your fellow Bemba, or vote for me because I'm your fellow. Are you saying Mr. Mwanza or Ongoni? Yeah. But ask them, okay, fine, you are our tribesmen. What are you going to do for us? Ask them, what are you going to do for us? Are you going to give us tribe? We already have tribe. We already have tribe. And we didn't choose it. So we are not going to be in a position now to choose tribe, because tribe by its nature cannot be chosen. It's not a matter of options. Ask them that question. What are they going to do for you? The president said very clearly, the issue of tribe and hate speech should have no place in our republic. It should have no place in our republic. And this is critical. We need to exist and coexist as one Zambia, one nation. Only then can we all put our efforts together, our intellect, to develop this country. This country needs development, not cannibalization into small little tribal enclaves. This is not what this country needs. We're still struggling with issues of poverty. Tribe will not sort that issue out. We are still grappling with issues of youth unemployment. Your tribe will not solve that problem for us. Yes, there are certain people that went onto the political platform on the platform of a tribe. Forget about that. It won't get you anywhere further than you have gotten this far. And in any case, let me remind our colleagues that Article 60 of our Republican Constitution outlaws tribal politics. Article 63A says a political party, I'm quoting from the Constitution, a political party shall not be founded on a religious, linguistic, racial, ethnic, tribal, gender, sectoral, or provincial basis, or engage in propaganda based on any of these factors. And with the motion passed last week, as the minister said, if you hear any politician come to you, talk about tribe, Parliament passed a motion to enforce the law. Go and report to the police. And they shall be arrested under the Penal Code, Cap 87 of the laws of Zambia, Section 70 of the Penal Code, which criminalizes hate speech and tribalism and makes anyone who practices that susceptible to imprisonment up to 2 years. So if you catch them now, they won't take part in next year's elections because they will be in jail. That's what the law says. So patriotism and national unity is critical for the development of our country. To be patriotic means to love your country and to wish only that is good for your country, not only for your tribal grouping, because we don't have such structures in our governance system. Okay. And to be patriotic means you are patriotic within the borders of Zambia and outside the borders of Zambia. It does not mean that when you jump on the plane and go to Europe and start despising your country, you are carrying the interests of your country. No, you are destroying the very country that you belong to. And I can tell you, if you go to a foreign country and start despising your country, let me tell you, they laugh at you. Those that are listening, they say, this guy, he wants to be a leader of this country. And he can say so many negative things about it.